What's good, people? Welcome back to the Onyx Report, to our daily Black Masculinist news feed. Hope everybody's well. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about an experience I had a few days ago that was really no different from a million other experiences. Probably a million experiences my average listener tends to have on a daily basis. But there was something about this one that actually made me reflect in a way that I never had. So a few days ago, I had a woman salesperson come to my home, right? And she was trying to sell me her goods, And what I noticed was, as I've seen a million times before, she looked terrified. She looked afraid, you know. And this is something that I've grown accustomed to. I mean, I'm 6'2", 350 plus. My son is 15, but he's 6'7". And I'm still really trying to get him to understand this. I think, he still doesn't fully get how people see him, but I do. So what I watched.
Well, welcome to the Terror Dome.
What I watched.
Welcome to the Terror Dome.
Anyway,
welcome to the Terror Dome.
I get all these donations.
Welcome to the Terror Dome.
They've never seen this happen. They must be built up or something.
Welcome to the Terror Dome.
Because this is not even a live presentation.
Welcome to the Terror Dome.
What the hell is going on? Anyway, she's looking terrified, right? And I'm observing her fear, and I'm trying to make her feel better, right? I'm laughing with her. I'm trying to make her laugh, and I do, for the most part. She's laughing, she's comfortable at times, but then I'll notice out of nowhere she'll look terrified again. And, it even starts to impede on her selling me her goods because she can't remember anything. She's going back. She's leaving several times to go to her car, and she's in the driveway on the phone. And I'm literally sitting in my chair. I ain't moved. I actually hadn't moved at all. I ain't get up. I'm not walking around. I'm not flexing on her. My voice ain't raised. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. I am so attuned to how other people fear me that I can read their body language, right? So I adjust mine. And this is a subconscious thing, right? But I think it's something that most particularly Black men have learned to navigate. Other people's fears of what you may do, even though you've given no evidence that you would, right? Offering her a drink of water, asking her to tell me about her kids and her grandkids, so on and so forth. And, I just start to notice after a minute, when did I learn this? You know what I'm saying? Like, when did it become a thing where I really need to go out my way to make sure other people are comfortable? What conversations to have, what topics to bring up, how did I learn these things? And I realized this is something that I've been doing since probably middle school, because I had teachers from middle school through graduate school that wouldn't sit in the same room with me to advise me as a student. You know what I mean? And it's something I'm so used to, I don't even think about it at this point. I mean, I remember even in my PhD program, I had professors who I would go meet in their office for, office hours and had questions about the class or whatever. And they would take me out into the middle of the quad or something, where, you know what I mean? Like, they tried to make it look casual, but it was something they would often only do with me. And there'd be a line of people, in fact, that they'd meet with. And then as soon as I get in there, they want to go be in a public space. Like, I'm going to get in the PhD program and steal your purse. But, it wasn't really men. Not even white men really did that. It tended to be women more often than not, right? This fear of being raped and attacked or whatever. So, but I started to think about it. I realized how mindful I've become at monitoring other people's body language, their facial expressions, the tone of their voice, and adapting to make them comfortable. And it after a while, you really, if you stand back and reflect on it, like, because I actually observed myself in the course of this meeting, and I said, wow, look at the box I put myself in to adapt to other people's fears, even perfect strangers who are coming to my house to sell me goods. And I started to ask myself, I get it. It's key for you to learn those things in order to advance in this society. But what most people don't know is, one, that we do it. Two, how skilled we are at it, and three, how exhausting it is. Absolutely exhausting. And in the last 15 years, I've got to say, I've come to do that with pretty much every group I can think of. I mean, mainly with men, it's different. Like white men in particular, I don't really have to do it that way. They're not worried about me raping them. But I have had instances where, I've seen, men concerned that I'm going to get physical with them and in terms of confrontational kind of thing. But it tends to be more with women where the fear is a little bit extra. And it's exhausting. It's truly exhausting. And I started to wonder, what would happen if we stopped caring? And I posted this on Facebook, and I had a lot of brothers respond. There's only 250 responses, brothers all over the spectrum. I don't care. I stopped caring years ago. Oh, it doesn't happen to me. I'm in another country. People think I'm nice. It's not a factor. But then I had a group of brothers that were like, no, I get this too. And I'm 6'7". I'm 5'5". I'm 6'3". And there were even a couple of brothers that were like, no, I'm a short dude, but I still get it, because they still wonder if I'm going to steal something or hurt somebody, But when I started to ask this question, can we afford to stop doing it as much as I want to? The reality is, you can stop doing it and you're really just rolling dice. Then again, you're rolling dice even when you do it, so it ain't really no escape. But at some point, depending on your environment, you're going to have to employ levels of it. The goal of today's broadcast, however, is to urge us to find your level for doing it as little as possible. Trust your gut, of course, but I want us to be more conscious of the box we put ourselves in to make other people feel comfortable. And I'm only saying that because if anybody listening to me has had a similar experience, you really stop thinking about it, if you ever did at all, years ago. And I want you to be conscious of it, to liberate yourself from it to the extent that you can. I mean, obviously, when to act, when to act like you got some sense. But for the most part, as long as I didn't answer the door to this woman in a robe and nothing else, and talking mess or whatever, which I'm not going to do. But if I'm being civil and I'm carrying myself well and I'm communicating, I don't really feel like having to do extra to make you feel comfortable, especially if you're there to sell me something, right? And I think about this in so many different instances, ranging from interviews to standing in elevators with people. And I can't remember how many times I've seen people respond to just my presence as if I'm going to, physically assault them, But I do think on the other end of the spectrum, there are things that we actually need to be concerned about when in that instance. If one of the times that woman went outside, she called the police, or even a husband or a boyfriend or a son with his friends to attack because she thought I was doing something or perceived something about me as being a threat, those are the kind of things that end up becoming dangerous to us. Like I remember one time I hired this older woman years ago to clean my house once, right? And I'd never had a housekeeper before, but I hired her. She said she would give me a good rate, whatever. So she came by for the very first time, and she brought her husband with her. And I didn't care, but I'm sitting in my office doing some work while she's cleaning the house. Her husband's sitting in the front room reading the paper, and I'm thinking, is this normal? Do people usually bring their husbands to do work in your house? And what I realized is, no, it's not necessarily normal. She just thought I was going to do something to her. But anyway, so I started thinking about this, and I was like, there are times when we actually need to be concerned, right? And I wanted to list about 6 of them real fast for your perusal, for your consideration. So this is something that came out the other day, that they're going to remove Pepe Le Pew from the Space Jam 2 film because, it's suggested that, he's promoting rape culture, which I found it interesting. And the reason I'm bringing it up is that there's an obliviousness, right, about the way men can be threatened, right? Males in general, across the spectrum, from boys to elder men, we can be threatened. And the reason, so what I'm saying here is there's an obliviousness. And what do I mean? Well, if we're going to start talking about characters that need to be removed, can we recognize? I mean, as dumb as this conversation is, my only point in bringing these things up is that if you're going to talk about threat, then maybe you should think about the fact that this is never limited to one gender. And why do I bring it up in this discussion? Because, again, if you can be oblivious to years of something, if a society can be oblivious to it, then do I have to be concerned when I'm sitting alone in a room with a strange person I don't know who fears me, right? And decides that I'm a threat to her even though I haven't done anything? Is there something there that I need to take into account? Does her obliviousness, does the obliviousness of our society about what threatens men, does that become a factor? Does that become something I need to be concerned about? Absolutely. Because if you can be oblivious about the existence of Miss Piggy while you pointing out Pepe Le Pew, then yeah, I need to be concerned about what you might say about me, what you might do to me in your one-way perception. Now, if we were to apply this to Black America, we could ask the same question here. I put this up on Twitter. It caused a bit of a firestorm. People are still commenting on it. 20 minutes. It's like 20 messages every 10 minutes up there. People arguing about whether or not this was a problem, right? Monique's character in the Parkers, right? Very forward, sparked a lot of frustration. People were very intent on arguing back and forth. And the point I kept hearing the most was, well, he married her eventually, so all is well. And I'm like, word? So if for years a man is hyper harassing a woman and she finally gives in, we don't see that as coercion, right? We see it that everything must be good. Some of us see it as good, but some of us argue, nah, he's a problem. But it doesn't seem to be a problem when it's a woman, right? Or if we're going to stick to the theme of dealing with black sitcoms in response to this question, we could say the same thing about Kim Wayne's character, right? Tanya in The House. Not a problem, though. I mean, most of us don't feel like this is a problem. We feel like it's just funny. But if it's a male character, it's a problem. Now, that's popular culture. Does it translate into reality? Does it impact us in any kind of serious way where men are threatened in a manner that we ignore, right? And does that impact individual situations? Sitting in an interview, for example, right? If you can overlook the behavior in popular culture where women are aggressors and men are actually victims, if you can eliminate that and be oblivious to it, do I need to be concerned when you already see me as a problem and I haven't done anything but sit here? If my biggest threat to you is that I didn't smile, right? Let's see. I think I'll give you another example. All right. This one I saw a little while ago. Check it out and tell me what you think. All right. If you can't tell what it is, this is a woman who ran over a man with her car. You will soon see her get out of the car and break out running in a hysterical kind of shot, and the police capture her. She ran him over. The people there screaming are saying that she broke his neck. I couldn't find any other information on this yet, but the video does show him underneath the car, and it made me wonder, clearly murder is a problem, but have you really seen this blowing up the news? When you see these kind of instances, I showed this last year where men were ran over by cars by their women or girlfriends, their wives or girlfriends because of infidelity. There she goes. She didn't really take off running with any serious intent. She was frantic, right? Everybody there is mostly trying to get him out from under the car while screaming his neck is broken. But my concern is these kind of videos don't get much traction. People don't really reflect on them. Now, if he had run over his girlfriend, his wife, or some random woman that denied him her phone number, it's all over the place, right? So this is what I mean about the obliviousness. There she goes. And the cops eventually catch her, right? But again, my point is mainly, is this a problem when it's one way? Or is it convenient to ignore when it's another? All right. Another way we can look at this too, in terms of this question of should I be the one concerned, even though I haven't done anything and I'm perceived as the threat, right? So we covered the ways in which people are oblivious to pop culture. We talked about a little bit about how violence against men is never a central story. But here's another, right? We're going to talk about child trafficking, right? And this is from a SaveTheChildren.org article, and it deals with the myths of human trafficking. I'm just going to read one. Myth: only girls and women are victims of human trafficking. Fact: boys and men are just as likely to be victims of human trafficking as girls and women. However, they are less likely to be identified and reported. Girls and boys are often subject to different types of trafficking. For instance, girls may be trafficked for forced marriage and sexual exploitation, while boys and men may be trafficked for forced labor or recruitment into armed groups. Yet how often do we actually hear about and talk about boys and men being trafficked? Even for labor. Do we? We are yet again oblivious. So again, my central point here is that inasmuch as I gotta be considered a threat by other people, even when I'm not doing anything, I gotta really ask the question, am I under threat? Does a random phone call and accusation threaten my life simply because someone else is scared and my only crime is I didn't smile wide enough to make them feel comfortable? Does that happen? Tell me in the comments if you've had a situation where you've been reported at the job or accused of something simply because you didn't go out your way to make someone else comfortable enough. Despite how oblivious we tend to be about all manner of things impacting us, right? Hey, y'all tell me. Anyway, y'all have a good one. See you soon.